Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
I'd say it has been a hot minute since I've seen Brian Johnson. Last time, I think we might have been guest bartending at Cadillac Ranch.
That sounds about right, yes. And that would have been 2011, 2012-ish?
Somewhere in there. But today we're at his, I guess, the world headquarters, we can say.
Sure, we'll take that.
Silverback Firearms and Defensive Training, which is right here off of Chinkopin Round Road. And I must say that the office does not look like a firearms and defensive training office. We are in this suite where they've, which I didn't even realize they had that. They used to have the Commons down in downtown Annapolis. So they've got the Regis over at the town center. But this is a nice little, if somebody needs a nice little office.
Well, and how it started is I was renting just the conference room for the classroom portion of everything that we passed more and came in. And then as business grew and I started doing, as I am now, almost exclusively private trainings, I just need an office. So I still have access to the conference room for public trainings once a month, but then I just bring the people in here for the private trainings.
Very cool. Well, I mean, in the prior life, you were a personal trainer and a gym owner. It was, I don't know whether CrossFit but it was close.
CrossFit-ish, yes.
Yeah. Now we're here at Firearms and Defensive Training, which doesn't seem to be like a big leap to me.
It really isn't. I mean, discipline is a big part of both. And then for me as the instructor, it's that reward of helping people. You know, before it was, you know, you take a client that, you know, needs to fit in their pants or they need to lower their blood pressure or whatever their ailment was, and you just get them to that point where they're healthier. Now it's somebody comes in and, you know, I feel like I need to defend myself because the world's crazy, or God forbid they have a stalker in their personal life, whatever the case may be. But then they've never even touched a gun, let alone fired a gun their whole life, and then take them from, you know, a zero to not a John Wick, but get them comfortable with the firearm.
Well, I fall into that category because I'm not a fan of guns. I have fired a couple of them, but you know, my thought is, and actually my kids are now flown and grown at this point, but certainly when they were younger, that absolutely terrified me to think about having a gun in the house that somebody might just discover, get hold of, and, you know, you hear about those accidents a long time. So that was where my background is. So I'm not a big, huge gun fan, but I certainly understand the reason that somebody would want to have one, and, you know, and training plays a big part of that. But you are a firearms and self-defense training. So are you strictly firearms only, or, I mean, are you...
So we dabble, you know, we don't do the jujitsu or anything like that, but where the defensive training comes in is as it relates to owning the firearm and situational awareness. We do offer some extracurricular courses that are even well above my pay grade. I don't teach them. I have an employee who's an active duty law enforcement officer and a Marine, so he has the credentials for more of that. I always call it the John Wick barrel roll kind of training if people do want that. My focus primarily is on getting people the ability to apply for their carry permit or just basic firearm instruction.
Okay, to be able to go to a range and safely
To go to a range.
know what they're doing, and
Yep.
Not have everybody else standing next to you running for cover.
Correct. And again, if I do, you know, 45, 50 people a month, 44 of them are here for their concealed carry permit.
Interesting. Well, so tell me about your classes. I mean, okay, I see on the business card that you've got public and private classes, and you did allude to say that most of your work is private.
Yes.
And the class is to get a carry permit.
Yes. So you come to us, or any other place for that fact, and we give you the credentials to be able to apply to the Maryland State Police to get your permit. We don't guarantee you get your permit, We just get you through the class to get the paperwork to be able to apply.
So that whole little issue in high school may come back to haunt.
It really could. And you would be surprised. I'll be sitting here helping people with applications. And when we get to the questions, you know, have you ever been arrested? Have you ever been charged? Have you ever been convicted? When I see the whites of their eyes, it's sometimes ready for a refund at that point.
Right, right.
It really is.
I'm assuming that questionnaire is at the beginning of the class.
It used to not be, but it is now, just to save everybody's time.
What do we expect when we come into a class? I mean, as me, I have never handled a handgun, and that's what I want to do. I mean, what can I expect when I come to Brian Johnson, Silverback Firearms and Defensive Training?
So the class is structured with the NRA as the backbone. That's who my credentials are through. That's the platform we use for the training, which is also accepted by Maryland State Police. And the course itself is designed to really take that complete novice that has never touched a gun in their entire life and get them to be proficient, be safe, and be comfortable with the gun at the end of the course.
Okay, and that's handling and
it's handling. I mean, as you see in the office, I mean, I don't keep guns here for safety reasons.
Right.
I mean, they're all secured in either a safe in a vehicle or in the gun room at the house. Obviously they come out for the range day, but now if I do have clients here, yes, I bring the guns up, we clear them, make sure everything is safe, and we'll practice handling them. That way, when we get to the range, especially this time of year, you don't have to waste all that time out there in the cold or in the summer when it's ridiculously hot, and get them shooting.
Okay. Now, in Maryland, you do need a permit to carry.
Correct.
You don't need a permit to own a gun, correct?
So you do for a pistol. If you to purchase a pistol, actually, if you want to purchase a pistol as a Maryland resident, you have to have what's called an HQL, which stands for Handgun Qualifying License.
Okay.
That's part of the class of the concealed carry class. It also gives you the HQL. It's just a separate application, a separate set of fingerprints, a whole separate process, but you get that along with the concealed carry. Anybody that has a clean record can go buy a shotgun or rifle today, leave with it in 20, 30 minutes, and go to the range.
Okay, so there's no wait period on a shotgun or a
Shotgun or rifle, there is not, no.
And what's the wait time on a handgun?
So on the handgun, it's a 7-day waiting period. So you go, you fill out your paperwork, you do all the processes that, you know, Maryland State Police require. Obviously, you have the federal 4473 form, and then Maryland says you wait 7 days. You'll get an email back in 7 days from Maryland State Police saying that you've been not disapproved, which is a fancy way of saying you're approved. And then you can go back to the gun shop and pick your handgun up.
And say that up there, so they hold it for you.
They hold it for you, yes. And like if I wanted to sell a handgun to a buddy of mine, I would take it to a gun shop, give it to them, pay for the transfer fee, or somebody pays for the transfer fee, and then he's essentially brokering the deal at that point. He holds on to the handgun until the person purchasing it
Gets the approval.
goes through the 7-day waiting period.
You have to take some money, gives it to you, and turns around and goes from there. It's interesting. Now, I mean, the classes that you're offering and the programs that you're offering, are they designed for the person that, I mean, I know you said the end game is to have a carry permit. Is it designed for the person that is going to be carrying, or is this something more for the homeowner that just says, you know, okay, maybe I've got a farm that's out in the middle of nowhere, or maybe I'm inside in Arundel County where I know that the response time for the police can be lengthy. I mean, you know, let's face it, it's very rural. And just a homeowner. I know my father taught my sister, she wanted to buy a rifle for self-defense in her house. And he said, no, first of all, you buy a shotgun. And I said, because you're likely to hit somebody, and B, you're likely not to kill them. And then you also said, well, the first thing you do is if somebody's in your house is you shoot at them, and then the second shot is the ceiling. And did you just say you gave a warning shot? But I mean, is this designed for somebody that's strictly carrying, or is it more designed for, or both?
So it is both. And I mean, I'm not an NRA affiliate I don't get paid by them to endorse them, but they did a really good job putting the program together. So to answer your question, it does cover both. You know, we will not only, you go over all the safe handling, transportation, and all the that stuff that comes with it, the what I call the hard skills, but then it talks about the soft skills as it relates to owning a firearm. We take a deep dive into the Castle Doctrine and how that is different here than it is in a lot of other states. We talk about the importance of concealing the gun. We talk about how easy it really is to shoot. And then we take everything you talk about here on day one, and then you apply that at the range in day two. And I get people that call me all the time. It's like, hey, I don't know if I want to get a carry permit. I try to talk them into, hey, let's just do the whole class because it's going to cover everything. And I always start my classes out as I'm going to teach you and train you that you're going to carry that gun everywhere, every day, no matter where you go. But then you neck it back and make it your own.
What do you do? That's up to you. And how.
But that way they have the knowledge and the skill set to be able to do it, and then just make it.
To use it in a self-defense situation in the middle of the night in a bad area, something like that.
Yeah,
as opposed to.
And again, even in their house. I mean, I use the example of when we thought we had somebody in our house when we were going through the construction phase up there, and how I cleared the house and like what it does to your body, the psychological responses when you are put in a situation like that. Now, nobody was ever there. There was no signs of break-ins, but I felt like what took 10 minutes felt like I just ran a 5K.
Sure.
I wasn't able to go back to sleep. It's a nightmare.
Adrenaline.
You never want to feel that way. And, if I think I'm approaching 3,600 people now. Since I've been tracking this, it's a lot. I would speculate maybe only 200 to 300 carry every single day, everywhere they go. That's it.
Do most of the people that carry, I mean, is there a reason? More so than I want to carry.
Yeah, I mean, the Family Feud survey says number one answer is it's my constitutional right. I mean, everybody has a different reason. For me personally, with my best friend being a police officer, I hear some of the horror stories that are out there. I never want to be in a position to say, oh man, if I only had my gun. You never know when it could be you. You could be pumping gas, or, somebody could break into your house, or, I mean, I could be here in the office. I mean, look at, what was it, back in 2018, the Capitol Gazette. The only way to stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun.
Yeah.
It really is. And had somebody in that office that, may have come through a class like mine, it may have been a different outcome. Yeah, I mean, you don't know. You can't speculate, but
true.
You never really know, but it does give you that sense of security.
Right. I mean, certainly I've often heard that, business owners and we're out of the time of our lives where business owners will be taking lots of cash to the banks every night. I mean, that was always a good excuse for getting a carry permit, if you will.
Well, and that was pretty much the only reason. So prior to the Buren decision back in, I forget the actual date, but it was in June of 2022, Maryland was what was called a May issue state. So you had to take a 16-hour class, you had to pass a background check, and then you also had to provide a good substantial reason as to why you needed to carry. So the Supreme Court said, no, that's not constitutional. They threw it out, said you can't do that anymore. July 5th of 2022, Governor Hogan got on the news and said, we're following the Supreme Court's guidance and no longer require good substantial reason. And my website that I designed, and, I'm just a good old boy. I'm not tech savvy in that aspect, but my website got over 10,000 hits that day.
Oh, wow.
My license number's in the low 300s. By the end of 2022, there were over 4,000 people doing what I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
And that, it does. It scares me. That number has since come down. Last time I looked, it was down around 2,600. Because we have to renew our certifications every 2 years. But it was a cash grab. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I was printing money in 2022. It was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to, immediately I had to call my buddy, the cop, and, we sat down, wrote range rules, and put in all the measures.
I know what you mean. You had to have your processes all set down exactly.
Because prior to that, I mean, and the reason this business started is I was working for a company that was able to give me good substantial reason. But then when I left that company for another opportunity, I had to turn my permit in. And I'm like, well, I don't want to turn my permit in. So I thought, what better way to do it than start another business and I'll just teach people how to shoot. And that's what started the business. And for about a year and a half, if I did 1 or 2 people a month, that was a lot.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then I went, you know, even now today after the bubble broke, I'm doing 40, 50 people a month.
Who is your customer? The average person that walks in here, or is there one?
There really isn't. I mean, and I have looked at the demographics. Believe it or not, most customers are women in that 35 to 55 bracket. At least that's how I've been breaking it out.
I'm not surprised at that.
In the very beginning, it was mostly men in that same bracket. And I'll be honest with you, and I'll say this as a man, they were the worst students because they were the ones that came in. Well, I have this.
We'll prop a ladder on top of a 55-gallon drum, and sling a rope up to get to the top of it. Shouldn't be okay. So,
yeah, but they did. Like, you know, I always had guys that would sit there. You know, I'll go around the room, and this is when I was doing only the public stuff. But I would go around the room, you know, ask it the question, "Why are you here?" And most of their answers were, "I just need the piece of paper." Inevitably, they're the same ones I would end up throwing off the range at day 2.
Okay. When you talked about the range a couple different times, I mean, it's obviously, is it your range?
No, so I have a couple different gun clubs I'm a member at that I'm also allowed to train at. So it depends on the logistics.
Okay. And what does a training class on a range look like?
So range day, it's very strict. You know, myself and my partner, we show up there, we have on our body armor and our firearms because, well, we got to get not in front of people, but we're really close to them. And I'm not going to lie, we've had some sketchy people come through here. You just, you don't know.
No.
But to answer your question, it's very regimented. It's very militant, I guess is a good way to put it.
Is it target practice?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at little bullseye things.
Yeah. The ladies and B-27 target, which is a bloated silhouette sized target that you have to shoot at. The Maryland State Police qualifier is only 25 rounds at specific distances. We shoot anywhere between 100 and 150 rounds at our range day. I don't think 25 rounds is enough to get comfortable. So usually it goes, you know, 50 rounds of getting comfortable. And then I'll throw in the 25 round qualifier, not even let them know I'm doing it. So they're not stressed out about it.
Sure. Okay, we're measuring you now.
And look, I'm a horrible test taker. The sweat beads that were coming off my head when I had to take my tests to do this were ridiculous. And, you know, then we'll do, you know, anywhere between another 25 to 75 rounds of letting them try different guns if they want, because I'll bring a wide variety of handguns for them to try because everybody's hands are different. The ergonomics are different. The guns have their own personality. So, you know, and most people don't know what they don't know when they're making that purchase. And I mean, you've already invested, you know, $700 to $900 in this. And you haven't even bought a gun yet. Right. So, you know, I want to at least make sure that they're going to purchase the right gun right out of the gate and not have buyer's remorse and buy something else 3 months later.
So I don't have to have a gun to come to you.
No.
That's awesome.
No, we supply everything.
Well, here's a question for you that sort of confuses me, but I mean, I know that we've had a couple protests here in town about the open carry and concealed carry. I mean, my guess, just without knowing, is open carry means that's like the cowboy with the
gun. That'd be like outside the hip, pistols in front.
Okay, that dude's carrying a gun. Yeah, it's like a cop,
like police. Yes, they open
uniform cops.
I'm not a fan of open carry. Now, as of October 1st, 2023, you could no longer open carry.
So that was okay?
It was okay, but then
and again, you had to have the carry permit.
You had to have a carry permit to be able to do it, correct. Now, if you're inside your own dwelling or place of business, you can open carry. but the minute you would step outside the door,
You're not.
that's a felony.
What's the benefit of one or the other?
So
You said you're not a fan.
yeah, I'm not a fan of it because you don't want to be the threat to the threat. You know, so if I'm at the cooler at the 7-Eleven and, you know, I'm getting a soda or whatever, and, you know, my back's to the door, if somebody comes in to rob it, well, they're going to see me with the gun and take me out first without me even knowing it.
Okay.
And you're going to have every other, you know, concerned citizen out there complaining or feeling fearful that, oh my God, this guy has a firearm. And carrying a concealed gives you the leg up. You know, people don't know what they don't know.
Okay.
And I'll never forget the first time years ago, I walked into a bank with my gun for the first time, carrying a concealed. I'm like, it's like, oh my God, am I even allowed to do this? It feels weird.
Yeah.
But now it feels weird if you don't have it on.
That's true. I guess if it's just like, you know, if you're married, I know for a long time, it was like you take your wedding ring off, feel like this is not right.
If I take my wedding ring off at the gym for whatever reason, it feels weird.
Right.
So yeah, definitely not a fan of the open carry, never was. And I think a lot of people, even if they did open carry, they didn't do it responsibly either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'll give you a great example. We had a contractor come to our house and he was open carrying. I never met him, but we talked on the phone, I don't know how many times before. So we knew what he knew what I did. Long story short, he was open carrying, but he only had a 1-point retention holster, meaning it was just the friction that held the gun in.
Okay. There's no strap.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, anybody can just come up and pull that. Like the only time I would open carry, or even now on range day, I carry the exact same holster that law enforcement uses. It has 4 points of retention. And we actually have fun with it in class. And I'll put $1 bill out and I say, I'll give $1 bill to the first person that can get the gun out on their first try. And out of 500 people, not one person is.
You should not have. So put 100 out.
They still wouldn't get it. I don't want them to break it either. They're not cheap.
But no, I mean, it makes all the sense. And you mentioned a word, responsible, there. And I mean, that's obviously the key component of owning and operating and using a gun, is to be a responsible gun owner, and that involves safety and the training that you're doing as far as the storage, the safety. I mean, I'm going to diss on Anne Arundel County schools for a little bit. My kids graduated with a kid that was from South County, and he was out hunting over the weekend. And they suspended him a couple weeks before graduation, wouldn't let him graduate, wouldn't let him go to the prom, because somebody saw a gun underneath a blanket in the back seat of his car. And when they went, they called him out. The police came and called him out of school to open the door and everything else. And sure enough, it was a shotgun, and it was sure enough unloaded. It was sure enough locked, had a trigger lock. It was cocked and broken.
Yeah.
I mean, so it wasn't ready to fire.
Chamber open, yep.
You popped open the trunk of the car, and there was a lock box with shotgun shells in it.
So he did everything right.
But I mean, the school had the rules.
The school
you
can't have on property. Yeah.
And I thought it was really cruddy, because I mean, if I would think it would be bad if it was, oh God, I'm late, just cover it up and move on. That would have been bad, and I might have seen their thing. But the fact that everything was done right by the rules, and I mean, you knew it was a hunting thing. You knew that, this wasn't Glen Burnie. This wasn't Brooklyn Park, where there's not an awful lot of hunters. This is in South County, where there are hunters.
Yeah.
I guess rules are rules, and being responsible is a critical part of gun ownership.
And I say it all the time. You follow the rules, you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. What's just out of curiosity, out of your opinion, you also talked about the NRA a number of times. Registration for gun owners or gun. What is your opinion on that?
If you buy a gun, it's registered. It's that simple. The form you fill out at the gun shop, there's a document that you own that specific gun. So and it's a big misconception out there, universal gun laws, registries and all that. It's already there. It is.
So if I have a gun stolen that's sold on the black market, that's stolen a couple more times and sold a couple more times and everything else, used in a crime, police officer provided the serial number is still there and you can still identify who it is. The serial number will come back to me.
To the registered owner.
At some point. And then I've got to sit there and explain that, no, I wasn't the thug up in Detroit. This was stolen from a burglary I had in 1972.
So now I don't know what they had on paperwork back in 1972.
I remember saying, but
like on the paperwork now, one of the first things it says is if this gun is stolen, you will report it within 72 hours, and you check yes or no to that.
okay, so you're an attempt of some sort.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to responsible gun ownership. I mean, if a gun's stolen for whatever reason, you should be calling. If somebody broke in a vehicle of mine and cleaned out the guns that are in there, I wouldn't even call the insurance company first. It's immediately called Maryland State Police. Hey, these guns were stolen. I'm going to get you the serial numbers off of my records here. I just need it recorded that it's been done. And again, it goes back to
what happens on a turnback thing? I know Annapolis ran the thing a couple months ago, and it was a voluntary, it wasn't a buyback. It was a turn in. And I mean, they have some Civil War crap. They had, they had some crazy guns. They had grenades and stuff like that. But what happens in a distance like that? It was, okay, I'm a young kid. I love shooting guns and everything else. Now all of a sudden I got married. I've got kids of my own, and I don't want them in the house. And I just say, okay, I'm not going to sell them. I just don't want them. I go to the police station and turn them in. And it's an anonymous thing. It's like no questions asked.
Yeah.
Pop open your trunk, and we'll grab the stuff out, and you'd be on your way. They don't know who I am. I mean, how does that? I mean, they obviously destroy the guns at that point, though. But I mean, isn't there shouldn't you be telling somebody that I have disposed of this gun and this is how I did it? Or
if you own that gun and you're a responsible gun owner and you need to dispose of it in whatever way, shape, or form, you're going to let the right people know. Okay. If anybody's taking stuff to buy for like a buyback or give back program like that, I would speculate that it is somebody that I don't necessarily want to call them a criminal, but they're a criminal if they have a gun illegally. I would also speculate you probably have a lot of spouses that, God forbid something happens to me. Well, we'll use me as an example. Now I have a gun trust, so it's taken care of, but say I didn't have all that and I passed away, my wife would, she would say, hey, Carroll County Sheriff's Department, just come and get all these guns out when I'm in the house, take them.
I don't want them.
Yeah, right. I mean, she wouldn't do that. But,
fair, right.
Fair. Yeah, so that's, I would speculate that's how it works. I wish they would make this stuff available for, true enthusiasts and collectors like myself to, hey, I'll pay for that. I'll buy it.
Yeah. Well, question for you. I mean, I know you said that when Hogan didn't do it, but he said that Maryland was going to abide by the Supreme Court rule, and that was at New York.
New York versus Buin or Byrne?
I think it was. You saw this increase in business, and have you seen, as we're not the most politically cohesive country as it is, right? As we have been in the past 4 or 5 or 6 years, have you seen an increase in interest in business for?
I actually am now. In the last 2 months, the phone's definitely been ringing a little bit more than it did leading up to the election. I think there's a little bit more of a comfort level there that people have. Maryland itself, it's still less than 4% of the population has a carry permit.
Okay,
that's it. So there's a lot of opportunity out there.
How does that rank nationwide? Do you have any over?
I mean, like Texas is 45-50%.
Oh gosh, okay.
Pennsylvania is probably about 10 to 12%. So okay. I mean, nationally, it's on the bottom.
Has a 50-50 shot that somebody's carrying.
Oh yeah. I would say Maryland. I don't know where they rank nationally, but I would definitely say they're in the bottom half.
Interesting. Your fascination with guns, I mean, how did this come about? And I mean, were you military?
No. So my father's a Marine.
Okay.
He taught me how to shoot when I was 7 years old. I've been a fan of firearms my whole life. I've always had them. I don't want to say I've always had a permit, but most of my adult life I've had a carry permit. Like I said, it's a passion. And when it's something that you enjoy doing, I never cringe at getting up at 5 a.m. to drive down here to train somebody.
That's awesome. So, did you ever consider going into law enforcement yourself, or?
I'm too old.
Too old?
Yeah.
Did you ever when you were younger?
So when I was 18, graduating high school, and clearly knew everything back then. My dad.
We just were stupid the older we get.
Yeah. I mean, he did. He tried to persuade me into the military, but I had 2 things on my mind at that time, and it was
beer and women,
pretty much, and got a job and bounced around in corporate America for many years, and landed here. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
Do licenses carry over from jurisdiction to jurisdiction?
So yes and no. There's a lot of reciprocity now. Maryland itself has reciprocity, and don't quote me to this, but I want to say around 38 states.
Okay.
So if you have a Maryland permit, you're good in, and we'll just use that number.
38 other states.
Plus or minus
And-
30
but it's
other states.
good anywhere in Maryland.
Good anywhere in Maryland that it is legally allowed. There's still places that you can't carry. Like you can't carry in a courthouse, can't be in school.
Okay. Are there any jurisdictions that they don't allow it? Like Baltimore City or Annapolis City or?
Yes. Like Montgomery County, all over the place. Obviously, DC is its own separate permit process.
Okay.
So no, you can't carry in DC. So it's my responsibility as a trainer to say, hey, here's the highlights, here's the link, here's the information.
You need to find out.
You need to make sure you know where you can and can't carry.
Okay. So you said Montgomery County is,
Montgomery County is very, very strict.
so they generally won't allow a carry?
I got to be, I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
To see exactly what the restrictions are. I know it's very restricted.
Okay. So once you get a carry permit,
But for the most part, you're good.
you can probably go many places.
Yeah.
Double check.
Correct.
Check but verify.
And-
trust but verify.
Exactly. And, one of the things that I push is some sort of prepaid legal that everybody needs to get. I don't advocate one or the other. There's two big boys out there on the block, but I tell everybody get something, because you wouldn't drive your car without insurance. You shouldn't be carrying a gun without prepaid legal. But one thing both of those offer is a non-emergency hotline. So you can say, hey, I'm a Maryland resident. Where can I and can I not carry? You can use that to your
Interesting. Very interesting. I know those are very, very affordable. For the
Yeah.
most part. They're-
Yeah, it's $30 a month, something like
They're
that.
not
Yeah.
crazy there. And again, they're obviously, regardless of permits, there are places that you can't carry. I mean, like I said, the courthouses, I know that the Naval Academy, unless you're in,
Correct.
they play
Planes, concerts.
when you do go on a plane, and it blows my mind that how many firearms are confiscated at BWI every year. But I didn't know it was in there. I was like, okay, it was loaded. Yeah, come on, yeah.
How can you not know it's
And shame on you for not knowing. But you can travel with your guns.
You
I mean,
can.
You got to check them in bags, and there's separate boxes, and you got to declare them and all that stuff, right?
Yes. And I've done that with them. I've found not necessarily a workaround, but just an easier way to do it. And it gives me peace of mind, where I just go to my FFL or Federal Firearms Licensee, my gun shop guy, and he'll ship it to another FFL at my destination.
And then you pick them up.
And then I pick it up there, because between you and me, I don't trust the baggage handler to make sure my gun's going to make it to my destination. I just don't. And at least I know if I'm doing it from gun shop to gun shop, because they buy and sell stuff and it gets shipped to them all the time. I know there's just a little bit more security for my peace of mind.
What's the best way to get in touch with you here at Silverback? Is it your website, which is silverbackfdt.com?
Yep. That or call me. I mean, which that information's on the website as well. I don't have a very strong social media presence. I know I should. All the 20 and 30-year-olds tell me I should, but I don't know, I'm Gen X.
So you're not doing TikToks?
I've done a couple, I'm not going to lie, but, I do find paying Google works the best.
Who should come see you?
Anybody that feels they need to protect themselves and their family, anybody that wants the experience. Again, out of 3,500 some people, I would say probably only 200 to 300 carry every single day. And a lot of people do like just the experience and the knowledge that comes with it.
Well, I think that just the experience and knowledge makes you a much more responsible person. And then certainly completing the class and going through and registering and stuff like that makes you a lot more responsible gun owner.
It does. I have 3 principles that I teach to. 2 of them are hard skills. One of them is a soft skill. Carrying a gun, first principle is trigger time. You got to have trigger time. You got to get out there and practice. It's a perishable skill. Second one is a consistent grip. If you're going to have to defend yourself, all the fundamentals that I teach and we go over in class and then practice at the range, all that goes out the window if you're fighting for your life. But if you have that muscle memory installed, you have a consistent grip, you're going to get on target within 7 to 15 feet. But the third most important one is humility. And carrying a gun will humble you out. You win. You have a gun. One person with a gun can control a crowd of 100 people.
Yeah.
So if you're downtown Annapolis at the bar, whatever the case may be, and somebody starts getting lippy with you, just leave. You got to be humble. And it's a very, very powerful characteristic. I think a lot more people need to have in this day and age, but that's just my personal opinion.
Definitely a lot of responsibility comes with it. But you do private, you do public classes, you do corporate training as well.
Correct.
So that's, there's all sorts of different options.
The corporate training is designed for that small business. And we've done, maybe a dozen of them now where we'll go into that small business. We give them the whole spiel, the day one training, we go over all that. And then on day two, we break it up a little bit more where we'll actually come in and do active shooter scenarios in that business and assign responsibilities for people based on where they sit in the office, or it's very, dare I say, a la carte, because everybody's business is different. So we really customize it to their needs. But we found that's what really kept us busy in December and January, because a lot of businesses were doing that as a Christmas bonus. Old people. It's like, hey, we'll pay for your permit and, we're going to have a fun 2 days.
Awesome.
So awesome. That was kind of cool.
Well, I will say you want to go check out the website, which is silverbackfdt.com. And that's named after, I guess, the gorilla, because there's a gorilla on the card in the website.
Correct.
And look, I would ask normally what the logo is, but I mean, that's defensive and, the whole 9 yards there. But I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for what you're doing to make sure that the people that are out there on the street, is the ones that you see anyhow, are out there responsibly. And, I will say that despite the fact that they are armed, they're keeping us all safer.
Yeah,
so
they really are.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.